Maya Rodriguez had always been the quiet girl who sat in the back corner of her high school gymnasium. While other students chatted and laughed during physical education class, she kept to herself, stretching carefully and avoiding eye contact. It wasn't that she didn't like sports or physical activity. In fact, Maya loved running and had spent countless hours practicing gymnastics moves in her backyard. But everything changed 3 weeks ago when she fell down the stairs at home. The fall had been sudden and scary. Maya was rushing to get ready for school when her foot caught on her younger brother's toy car left carelessly on the steps. She tumbled down 8 concrete steps, her left leg taking the worst of the impact. The bruising that followed was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Dark purple and blue marks covered her shin and thigh, creating an ugly pattern that made her wince every time she looked at it. Her mother, Elena, had wanted to take her to the doctor immediately, but Maya insisted she was fine. The leg wasn't broken, just badly bruised, and she could walk normally after a day or two. What she couldn't handle was the embarrassment of explaining what happened. It seemed so clumsy, so unnecessary. A stupid accident that could have been avoided if she had just watched where she was going. When she returned to school, Maya made sure to wear long pants every day, even when the weather was warm. She hoped the bruises would fade quickly and no one would notice her slight limp. For the first week, her plan worked perfectly. She moved carefully through the hallways, took the elevator instead of stairs, and avoided any activities that might require her to change clothes in the locker room. But hiding an injury in high school is nearly impossible, especially when you have physical education class 4 times a week. It was during a particularly hot Tuesday morning when Maya's secret was discovered. The temperature had reached 90 degrees, and even with the gymnasium's air conditioning running full blast, students were sweating through their clothes. Mrs. Patterson, the PE teacher, announced that they would be playing volleyball outside since the gym was being used for state testing. Maya's heart sank. She had successfully avoided outdoor activities for weeks, but now she had no choice. As students changed into their shorts and t-shirts, Maya remained in her long athletic pants, hoping to blend in. "Maya, aren't you hot in those pants?" called out Jessica Chen, one of the popular girls in class. "It's like 100 degrees out there." Maya mumbled something about being cold-blooded and quickly headed outside. But her luck ran out during the second volleyball game. As she lunged forward to save a ball from hitting the ground, her pant leg rode up, exposing the still visible bruising on her shin. "Oh my God! Maya, what happened to your leg?" shrieked Amanda Foster, pointing dramatically at the purple and yellow marks. "That looks horrible!" Suddenly, all eyes were on Maya's leg. Students gathered around, their faces showing a mixture of curiosity and disgust. Some gasped, others whispered, and a few pulled out their phones to take pictures. "Did someone hit you?" asked Trevor Williams, though his tone suggested he was more interested in gossip than genuine concern. "No, I just fell down some stairs," Maya replied quietly, pulling her pant leg back down and stepping away from the group. "Stairs?" laughed Kevin Martinez. "What are you, like 80 years old? Who falls downstairs that badly?" The laughter that followed was cruel and sharp. Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment as more students joined in the mockery. Someone made a joke about her being clumsy. Another person suggested she needed to learn how to walk properly. The comments weren't necessarily meant to be vicious, but they stung just the same. Mrs. Patterson tried to redirect the class's attention back to volleyball, but the damage was done. For the rest of the period, Maya could hear whispers and see students pointing in her direction. She counted the minutes until class ended, planning her escape route to avoid further embarrassment. The real torture began the next day. Somehow, word had spread beyond just her PE class. Students she barely knew would stare at her legs as she walked down the hallway, even though the bruises were completely covered. Someone had posted a photo of her bruised leg on social media with the caption, "When you can't even walk downstairs properly." The post had dozens of likes and comments making fun of her clumsiness. Maya's confidence, which had never been particularly strong to begin with, crumbled completely. She started taking different routes to class to avoid certain groups of students. During lunch, she ate quickly and spent the rest of the period hiding in the library. The worst part was PE class, where she now felt like she was constantly being watched and judged. "Maybe you should stick to sitting activities," Kevin had suggested loudly during warm-ups one day. "You know, things that don't involve moving around too much." His friends laughed, and even some students who weren't usually mean joined in the giggling. Maya pretended not to hear, but each comment felt like a small cut to her self-esteem. The bruises were fading now, but the emotional damage felt permanent. Maya began to believe what others were saying about her. Maybe she was clumsy. Maybe she wasn't cut out for physical activities. Maybe she should just accept that she would always be the girl who couldn't even walk downstairs without hurting herself. Her grades started to suffer as she spent more energy avoiding social situations than focusing on schoolwork. At home, she became quieter and more withdrawn. Elena noticed the change in her daughter's behavior, but couldn't get Maya to open up about what was bothering her. "You used to love practicing gymnastics in the backyard," Elena observed one evening as they prepared dinner together. "I haven't seen you out there in weeks." Maya shrugged and continued chopping vegetables. How could she explain that every time she thought about physical activity, she heard the laughter of her classmates? How could she tell her mother that she felt like a failure, marked by her own clumsiness? The turning point came on a Friday afternoon when Maya overheard a conversation that changed everything. She was leaving her chemistry class when she heard voices coming from Mrs. Patterson's office. The door was slightly open, and she could see the PE teacher talking to Principal Rodriguez about the upcoming annual obstacle course competition. "We need to encourage more participation this year," Principal Rodriguez was saying. "Too many students think they can't compete because they're not already athletes." "I agree," Mrs. Patterson replied. "The course is designed so that determination matters more than natural ability. Some of our most surprising winners have been students who nobody expected to succeed." Maya stopped walking and listened more carefully. Every year, Lincoln High School held an obstacle course competition that was open to all students. It included rope climbing, tire runs, wall scaling, balance beams, and a final sprint. Maya had never considered participating because she assumed it was only for the athletic kids, the ones who played sports and had natural coordination. "Remember Sarah Kim from 3 years ago?" Principal Rodriguez continued. "She was recovering from a broken ankle and everyone thought she was crazy to enter. But she trained harder than anyone and ended up winning the whole thing." "The students who succeed are usually the ones with the most heart," Mrs. Patterson agreed. "Physical ability helps, but mental toughness and preparation matter more." As Maya listened, something began to shift inside her. Maybe this was her chance to prove that she wasn't just the clumsy girl who fell downstairs. Maybe she could show everyone, including herself, that she was capable of more than they imagined. That weekend, Maya spent hours researching obstacle course training techniques online. She watched videos of competitions, studied proper climbing techniques, and learned about endurance-building exercises. For the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of excitement instead of dread about physical activity. On Sunday afternoon, she finally ventured back into her backyard. The gymnastics equipment her father had built for her years ago was still there, slightly weathered but sturdy. Maya started slowly, testing her movements and rebuilding her confidence. Her leg felt strong now, completely healed from the fall. As she practiced basic moves, she remembered how much she had once loved the feeling of pushing her body to do new things. Her younger brother Carlos watched from the kitchen window, surprised to see his sister outside again. For weeks, Maya had seemed sad and distant. Now she looked focused and determined, qualities he hadn't seen in her for a long time. As Monday morning approached, Maya made a decision that would change everything. She was going to enter the obstacle course competition, despite what anyone thought about her abilities. She would train harder than anyone expected, prove that determination could overcome reputation, and show her classmates that there was more to Maya Rodriguez than they realized. The registration sheet for the obstacle course competition was posted outside the main office on Tuesday morning. Maya arrived at school early, hoping to sign up before the hallways filled with students. Her hands trembled slightly as she wrote her name on the list, right below Trevor Williams and Jessica Chen. She stared at her signature for a moment, wondering if she was making a huge mistake. "Maya Rodriguez?" came a voice from behind her. She turned to see Brandon Park, the student body president, reading over her shoulder. "You're entering the obstacle course?" Maya nodded, trying to appear more confident than she felt. "Yes, I am." Brandon looked surprised but not unkind. "Cool. Good luck with training. It's pretty intense." As the morning progressed, word spread quickly through the school that Maya had entered the competition. The reactions were exactly what she had expected, and worse. During first period, she overheard two girls whispering about how the girl who can't walk downstairs thought she could complete an obstacle course. In the hallway between classes, Kevin Martinez made a loud comment about how the school nurse should be on standby during the competition. "I give her about 30 seconds before she trips over the first obstacle," Amanda Foster announced to her friends during lunch, making sure to speak loudly enough for Maya to hear from 3 tables away. The cruelest comment came from Derek Thompson, a senior who was widely expected to win the men's division. "I guess they're letting anyone enter now," he said as Maya passed by his table. "Maybe they should add a category for people who hurt themselves walking." Each comment felt like a punch to Maya's stomach. But something had changed inside her since she made the decision to compete. Instead of shrinking away from the mockery, she began to use it as fuel. Every mean comment became a reason to train harder. Every laugh behind her back became motivation to prove them wrong. After school that Tuesday, Maya headed to the public library to research training programs. She couldn't afford a gym membership, but she discovered that most of the skills needed for obstacle course racing could be practiced with creative use of playground equipment and household items. She checked out 3 books on functional fitness and athletic training, ignoring the surprised look from the librarian who knew her as the quiet girl who usually read fiction. Her real training began that evening in her backyard. Maya had convinced her father to help her set up additional equipment using materials from their garage. They attached a rope to the old oak tree for climbing practice, arranged car tires in patterns for agility drills, and built a balance beam using a long wooden plank supported by concrete blocks. The first week was humbling. Maya could barely climb 3 feet up the rope before her arms gave out. Running through the tire course left her gasping for breath after just 2 rounds. The balance beam, which looked simple enough, proved nearly impossible when she tried to run across it. Her legs shook with exhaustion, and she fell off more times than she completed the crossing. Carlos watched her practice every day after school, sometimes offering encouragement, sometimes just sitting quietly on the back steps. "Why are you doing this?" he asked one afternoon as Maya struggled to complete her rope climbing exercise. Maya paused, hanging from the rope about 4 feet off the ground, her arms burning with effort. "Because I want to show them they're wrong about me," she said between heavy breaths. "But what if you don't win?" Carlos asked with the honest curiosity of a 10-year-old. Maya dropped to the ground and looked at her little brother seriously. "Winning isn't the only way to prove something. Sometimes just finishing is enough." As the days passed, Maya began to notice small improvements. She could climb higher on the rope, complete more tire runs without stopping, and stay on the balance beam for longer periods. Her body grew stronger, but more importantly, her confidence slowly started to return. Each small victory felt enormous after weeks of feeling like a failure. The mockery at school continued, but Maya learned to tune it out. When Kevin made another joke about her clumsiness during PE class, she simply smiled and continued her workout. When Amanda asked loudly why Maya was wasting everyone's time by entering the competition, Maya responded calmly that she had just as much right to compete as anyone else. Mrs. Patterson noticed the change in Maya's demeanor during physical education class. The withdrawn, embarrassed girl had been replaced by someone focused and determined. Maya now participated fully in all activities, no longer trying to hide or avoid challenging exercises. Her performance had improved dramatically, though she still wasn't the most naturally athletic student in class. "Maya, can I speak with you for a moment?" Mrs. Patterson asked after class one Thursday. Maya approached the teacher's desk, wondering if she was in trouble for something. "I've noticed you've been training pretty intensively lately," Mrs. Patterson said with a kind smile. "The obstacle course competition is in 2 weeks. How are you feeling about it?" "Nervous," Maya admitted honestly, "but also excited. I've never trained this hard for anything before." Mrs. Patterson nodded approvingly. "The most important thing to remember is that this competition isn't just about physical ability. It's about mental toughness, problem solving under pressure, and refusing to give up when things get difficult. Those are skills that will serve you well in many areas of life." "Do you think I have a chance?" Maya asked, voicing the question that had been keeping her awake at night. "I think you have something that many of the other competitors don't," Mrs. Patterson replied. "You have motivation that comes from proving something to yourself, not just trying to beat other people. That kind of determination is incredibly powerful." That evening, Maya shared the conversation with Elena as they prepared dinner together. Her mother had been watching Maya's transformation with quiet pride, noting how her daughter had regained the spark that had been missing for weeks. "I'm proud of you for trying," Elena said, stirring the rice on the stove. "Regardless of what happens in the competition, you've already accomplished something important." "What do you mean?" Maya asked. "You stopped letting other people define who you are," Elena explained. "You took control of your own story." The weekend before the competition brought new challenges. Maya had developed a comprehensive training routine that included morning runs, afternoon obstacle practice, and evening strength exercises. She was in the best physical condition of her life, but the mental pressure was intense. Social media had made everything worse. Someone had started a poll asking students to predict who would finish last in the obstacle course competition. Maya's name was leading with 67% of the votes. The comments section was filled with jokes about her clumsiness and predictions about spectacular failures. On Sunday afternoon, Maya felt overwhelmed by doubt. She sat in her backyard after a particularly difficult training session, staring at the obstacle course she and her father had built. Her arms ached from rope climbing, her legs were tired from tire runs, and her confidence wavered as she thought about competing in front of the entire school. Carlos found her sitting there and plopped down beside her on the grass. "You've gotten really good at this stuff," he said, gesturing toward the equipment. "Not good enough," Maya replied sadly. "Some of these kids have been athletes their whole lives. I've been training for 3 weeks. But you're training for different reasons," Carlos pointed out with surprising wisdom. "They're training because they're already good at sports. You're training to prove you can do something nobody thinks you can do. That's way cooler." His simple observation hit Maya like a lightning bolt. He was right. She wasn't training to maintain a reputation or meet expectations. She was training to exceed every assumption people had made about her capabilities. The final week of training was focused and intense. Maya refined her technique on each obstacle, practiced smooth transitions between different activities, and worked on maintaining her energy throughout the entire course. She visualized the competition every night before bed, imagining herself moving confidently through each challenge. The night before the competition, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed thinking about the past month, how much had changed since she decided to enter. Regardless of what happened tomorrow, she had already accomplished something significant. She had refused to accept the limitations others placed on her and discovered strength she never knew she possessed. Elena knocked softly on her bedroom door around midnight. "Can't sleep?" she asked, sitting on the edge of Maya's bed. "I keep thinking about what will happen if I fail," Maya admitted. "If I fall off the rope or trip during the tire run, everyone will say they were right about me." "And what will happen if you succeed?" Elena asked gently. Maya considered the question seriously. "I guess I'll prove that they were wrong." "Either way, you'll have proven something important to yourself," Elena said. "You'll have proven that you're brave enough to try something difficult, even when people doubt you. That's a victory regardless of the final score." As Maya finally drifted off to sleep, she thought about the girl she had been a month ago, hiding in long pants and avoiding eye contact. Tomorrow, that girl would step onto an obstacle course in front of hundreds of spectators and compete alongside students who had been mocking her for weeks. The transformation felt almost impossible to believe, but she had lived through every difficult day that made it possible. Friday morning arrived with perfect weather for the obstacle course competition. Maya woke up at 6 o'clock, her stomach churning with nervous energy. She had barely eaten anything the night before, and breakfast seemed impossible. Elena insisted she at least drink a protein smoothie and eat a banana for energy. "Remember to pace yourself," Elena said, as she drove Maya to school. "You've trained hard, and your body knows what to do. Trust yourself." Maya nodded, though her hands were shaking slightly. As they pulled into the school parking lot, she could see students and parents already gathering near the athletic field where the obstacle course had been set up. The sight of the crowd made her stomach flip, but she forced herself to take deep breaths. The competition was scheduled to begin at 9 o'clock, giving participants an hour to warm up and mentally prepare. Maya had arrived early on purpose, wanting to see the course layout before it became crowded with competitors and spectators. The obstacle course was more intimidating in person than she had imagined. It started with a sprint to a rope climbing station, followed by a tire run through 24 tires arranged in a zigzag pattern. Next came a wall climb over an 8-foot wooden barrier, then a balance beam crossing that was 12 feet long and only 4 inches wide. The course continued with army crawls under a net system, monkey bars across a 15-foot gap, and finally, a sprint to the finish line. As Maya studied each obstacle, she reminded herself of all the hours she had spent training. She knew her rope climbing technique was solid, her tire running had improved dramatically, and her balance had become quite good. The monkey bars would be her biggest challenge since she hadn't been able to practice them at home, but she felt prepared for everything else. Other competitors began arriving for warm-ups. Derek Thompson looked confident and relaxed as he jogged around the track. Jessica Chen was stretching with several other athletic girls, laughing and chatting casually. Trevor Williams was already practicing on the rope climbing station, moving up and down with ease. Maya found a quiet spot near the fence to do her own warm-up routine. She started with light jogging, then moved through the stretching exercises she had learned during her training. As she prepared, she could hear comments from students who were arriving to watch the competition. "Is that Maya Rodriguez? I can't believe she's actually going through with this," said a voice she recognized from her English class. "This is going to be so embarrassing for her," replied another student. "Someone should video it, so we can watch her fall over and over again." Maya closed her eyes and focused on her breathing. She had expected this kind of talk, and she wouldn't let it affect her performance. All that mattered now was completing the course to the best of her ability. At 8:30, Mrs. Patterson gathered all 23 competitors for a final briefing. The rules were simple: complete all obstacles in order, accept help from spotters only for safety reasons, and finish the course as quickly as possible while maintaining proper form. Participants would compete in heats of 4, with times recorded for final rankings. Maya was placed in the 4th heat, along with 3 other students she didn't know well. As she waited for her turn, she watched the first 3 heats compete. Some students moved through the course smoothly, while others struggled with specific obstacles. 2 participants had to be spotted on the rope climb when they couldn't reach the top, and several people fell off the balance beam multiple times. Derek Thompson completed the course in 2 minutes and 43 seconds, setting the time to beat. The crowd cheered loudly for him, and Maya could see his confident smile as he jogged back to the sidelines. Jessica Chen finished in 3 minutes and 8 seconds, which placed her second overall among the competitors who had finished so far. When Maya's heat was called, her heart began pounding so hard she was sure other people could hear it. She walked to the starting line alongside Marcus Webb, Sofia Gutierrez, and Jason Park. Marcus was on the track team, Sofia played volleyball, and Jason was in cross-country. Maya was clearly the least athletic person in her group, and she could feel hundreds of eyes watching her. "Runners to your marks," called the timekeeper. Maya crouched into starting position, focusing on the rope that hung from the climbing station 20 yards away. She had practiced this exact sprint hundreds of times in her backyard. Get set. She took a deep breath and visualized her movements. Sprint to the rope, grab it properly, climb steadily using her legs as much as her arms. Go! Maya exploded from the starting line, surprising herself with how quickly she moved. The weeks of training had improved her speed significantly. She reached the rope climbing station at the same time as Marcus, who had started beside her. Maya grabbed the rope with the grip she had practiced thousands of times and began climbing immediately. Her technique was smooth and efficient, using her legs to support her weight while pulling with her arms in a steady rhythm. She could hear the crowd murmuring in surprise as she reached the top of the rope at the same time as Marcus and well ahead of Sofia and Jason. The tire run was next, and this was where Maya's obsessive practice paid off dramatically. She moved through the tires like she was dancing, her feet finding the perfect spots without hesitation. Her low center of gravity, which had once made her feel clumsy, was now an advantage as she maintained perfect balance while moving quickly through the pattern. By the time Maya reached the wall climb, she was actually ahead of Marcus and had built a significant lead over the other 2 competitors in her heat. The crowd had gone quiet, confused by what they were seeing. This wasn't the clumsy girl they had been expecting to watch fail. Maya approached the 8-foot wall with confidence. During training, her father had built a similar wall in their backyard, and she had practiced the climbing technique every single day. She jumped up to grab the top edge, pulled herself up using her improved upper body strength, and swung her legs over in one smooth motion. The balance beam was 12 feet long and only 4 inches wide, suspended 3 feet above the ground. This obstacle had eliminated several competitors already, including 2 who were considered athletic. Maya stepped onto the beam and immediately felt the confidence that came from weeks of practice. She moved across quickly but carefully, her arms extended for balance, her eyes focused on the far end. She completed the crossing without a single wobble, drawing gasps of surprise from the watching students. The army crawl under the net system was exhausting, but Maya's improved endurance carried her through. She stayed low and moved steadily, emerging from the final net still ahead of Marcus and the other competitors in her heat. The monkey bars were the obstacle Maya feared most. She had never been able to practice this specific skill, and her arms were already tired from the rope climbing and wall climb. As she jumped up to grab the first bar, she could hear Derek Thompson yelling from the sidelines, "Here's where she falls!" Maya focused entirely on her grip and her breathing. She moved from bar to bar steadily, not quickly, but without stopping. Her arms burned with effort, and by the 8th bar, she wasn't sure she could continue. The crowd was completely silent now, watching in disbelief as the girl they had mocked for weeks dominated an obstacle course. With 3 bars remaining, Maya's grip was slipping and her arms felt like they were on fire. She paused for just a moment, hanging from the 9th bar, gathering her strength for the final push. In that moment of silence, she heard Carlos yelling from somewhere in the crowd, "You got this, Maya!" His voice gave her the energy she needed. Maya completed the monkey bars with a final burst of determination and dropped to the ground with shaky legs. Only the sprint to the finish line remained, and she was still in first place for her heat. The final sprint felt like it lasted forever and ended in an instant. Maya crossed the finish line with her arms raised, hardly believing what she had accomplished. As she looked up at the electronic timer, the crowd erupted in shocked cheers and applause. Her time was 2 minutes and 39 seconds. She had not only completed the obstacle course, but she had set a new record, beating Derek Thompson's time by 4 seconds. Maya stood at the finish line, breathing heavily and smiling wider than she had in months. Students who had been mocking her for weeks were now clapping and cheering. Mrs. Bossy Patterson ran over with a huge grin on her face, followed by Principal Rodriguez, who looked amazed. "Maya, that was incredible!" Mrs. Patterson exclaimed. "Where did that performance come from?" "4 weeks of training every single day," Maya replied, still catching her breath. As the remaining heats competed, it became clear that Maya's time would not be beaten. Derek Thompson improved his own time in a later heat, but still finished 3 seconds behind Maya. Jessica Chen also ran again and came closer to Maya's record, but couldn't match the precision and efficiency of Maya's technique. When all competitors had finished, Maya Rodriguez was declared the overall winner of the Lincoln High School obstacle course competition. She stood on the makeshift podium, holding a trophy that felt surreal in her hands, while photographers took pictures and students cheered. The same classmates who had laughed at her bruised leg and made jokes about her clumsiness were now asking for selfies and wanting to know about her training routine. Kevin Martinez, who had made some of the cruelest comments, approached her after the ceremony. "Maya, I owe you an apology," he said, looking genuinely embarrassed. "I was really wrong about you. That was the most impressive thing I've ever seen at this school." Maya accepted his apology graciously, though she couldn't help but remember every hurtful comment he had made. The victory felt sweet, but the real satisfaction came from proving something to herself, not just to the people who had doubted her. That evening, Maya sat in her backyard with her family, looking at the training equipment that had transformed her life. The trophy sat on the picnic table, catching the light from the setting sun. Elena and Carlos flanked her on either side, both beaming with pride. "So what's next?" Carlos asked. "Are you going to join the track team? Or maybe try out for American Ninja Warrior?" Maya laughed and shook her head. "I think I'm going to keep training, but just for me. Today wasn't about becoming a competitive athlete. It was about learning that I'm capable of more than I thought." Elena squeezed her daughter's hand. "You proved that you can overcome anything when you set your mind to it. That's a lesson that will serve you well for the rest of your life." As Maya reflected on the past month, she realized that the bruised leg that had caused her so much embarrassment had actually been the catalyst for the most important period of personal growth she had ever experienced. The mockery and doubt from her classmates had hurt, but it had also revealed a strength and determination she never knew she possessed. Monday morning brought a completely different experience at school. Students who had previously ignored or mocked Maya now treated her with respect and curiosity. Teachers congratulated her in the hallways, and even some of the senior athletes nodded approvingly when they saw her. The transformation was remarkable, but Maya realized that the most important change had happened inside herself. During PE class, when Mrs. Patterson asked for volunteers to demonstrate proper rope climbing technique, Maya raised her hand without hesitation. As she climbed the rope in front of her classmates, showing the form and method that had helped her win the competition, she thought about the scared, embarrassed girl she had been just 1 month earlier. That girl could never have imagined standing confident and strong in front of the same people who had once laughed at her. The journey from victim to victor had been difficult and painful, but it had taught Maya that the most powerful limitations are often the ones we place on ourselves. When she decided to stop accepting other people's definitions of who she was and what she could accomplish, everything changed. The bruised leg had healed completely, leaving no permanent marks. But the confidence, strength, and self-respect Maya had gained through her training and triumph would stay with her forever. She had learned that the most important competitions are the ones we have with our own doubts and fears, and that the greatest victories come from refusing to give up on ourselves, even when everyone else already has.